All right, gentlemen, ladies, whatever you say. I don't want you to be unhappy. I just want to take this opportunity to introduce the owners, the new owners of the Boston Celtics. On my left is John Y. Brown, who I'm sure most of you have met or you've talked to. You know a lot about him. He's a basketball man. He's a fan. And his partner, Harry Mangurian. Now, they will answer all your questions. We'll conduct this on an informal basis. Do it any way you want. You know a great deal about the situation, as what has happened. And I think the best way to do this is, why don't you start out and just ask some questions of John or Harry or myself, and we'll do the best we can to give you the straight answers.
Red, did you ask any questions of John?
Did I ask any questions? No, I've known John for quite a while. I didn't know him quite this intimately. Of course, we went out to dinner yesterday for supposedly about an hour, and it lasted about 4. So it was pretty good.
Did he ask any questions of you? John, did you ask Red to stay?
Well, certainly. We're interested in every way for Red to stay. And before, actually, last Friday, Red and I maybe had a chance to talk, get to know each other maybe a half a dozen times on the phone or in person. And I think we both sort of wanted time to get acquainted. And I wanted to get a feel of the Boston situation here. This is a tremendous responsibility, a lot of pressure to come in to a new franchise situation like this. And I know what Red's meant to this, how he's been responsible really for the whole thing. And we want Red in every way to stay. And, but at the same time, I think Red feels he needs a little more time, and we want to give him all the time he needs. But we want to make every effort to have him stay with the Celtics. And I don't have any problem as far as working with Red. I am an active owner, and I don't want just a seat up in the stands. I want to come to Boston with Harry, and hopefully we can contribute something here to build the Celtic pros back to the winning ways of the past. And this is a market that's got a lot of proud tradition. You've got 4 sports teams, and all 4 of them have been winners and are winners in the top of pro sports, and we certainly don't want to come up here unless we can contribute something. And as owners, we'll make every effort to do that.
You know, he's a schoolmate of Frank Ramsey. I hold that against him.
John, everyone seems to be concerned about the trade. Can you talk about why the particular trade was made and what you like about the players that are coming to the Celtics?
Okay. I will. You know, this thing didn't come up until maybe the last day of San Diego. When I went to the meeting, I really wasn't satisfied with the decision that had to be made, and I asked the board to give me a little more time. My first preference, of course, would have had one in Louisville. But when you look at it, the college town, the smallest market by far in the NBA, you'd have to ask yourself how can you compete year after year for the next 10, 20 years. And so that really wasn't viable, even though I wanted to do it in every way. So Irv and I started talking, and he had an interest in San Diego, having a team close to home. He didn't like the idea of traveling 3,000 miles. Of course, like a lot of owners, there's a lot of pressure up here, which owners don't necessarily relish. And we got to talking about maybe the franchise swap. And in that, as owners, you naturally want to feel when you go to a new market that you've got players that you're comfortable with, that you can have a competitive team and a winning team. He certainly didn't want to go to San Diego with a group of players he wasn't familiar with. And naturally, he's more familiar with his players, and I was more familiar with our players. And I don't think the deal could have been made without the players. The unfortunate part was that it would not have been ethical, it would not have been proper for me to have picked up the phone and call Red when I didn't own the Celtics and say, Red, what do you think about this trade or that trade? And that's unfortunate. You know, that's a part of the transaction that we have to be apologetic for, but there's no other way to have done it. We didn't know we had a deal. When you get to dealing with 8 or 10 lawyers and accountants, you don't know you've got a deal until you sign the papers, and it was complicated. And Irv didn't want to maybe get Red involved. He didn't want to get Red involved until we knew we had a deal. So I've been in the game for 7 years, and I hope I made a responsible move. I feel very strong about the players we're bringing here. I think they're going to bring the kind of talent and the kind of people that can help build the Celtic program. And when you look at Billy Knight, I think, and I think Red would agree, that as far as small forwards in the league, he's one of the premier small forwards. And he's a great young man. He can play guard, he can play small forward, he can handle the ball, he plays a Celtic type of game, and he's a great person. Nate Archibald, we traded for him last year to bring to Buffalo because I really tried to put a representative team on the floor because we had a bad team when I bought the team a year ago. And it's difficult to do in 1 year's period of time, but by the opening of the season, we had a pretty representative team. Unfortunately, our injuries killed us, and we never really had a chance to show what kind of team we had. But Archibald's been playing now for 2 months. Our doctors have examined him on several occasions, and he's 100%. And he's a proven player in this league. I mean, he's a 6-time All-Pro. He's just turned 30 years of age. He's probably the best conditioned athlete in the league. He runs 6 miles every day, and he's an intense competitor. And I think the Boston fans will find that he'll fit the Celtic tradition. And as far as Marvin's concerned, here's a player that has a known and an unknown track record. In the ABA, if you don't mind me using that language, he was probably, I think, in minds of most basketball people, probably the second best all-around talent in the league. He averaged 26 points or 24 points, 16 rebounds for the 2 years that he was there. Whatever his problems were off the court, on the court he was intense and he was unselfish. And sometimes these young men, they grow up and they mature, and sometimes they don't. I think when Marvin came to us last year, he had lost his confidence, he had lost his touch, he was out of condition, out of shape for obvious reasons. And I'm banking that when Marvin comes back this fall, that he'll show the people of Boston what kind of player he really is. If he doesn't do it in Boston, he's not going to do it anywhere. But he's an awesome talent. I think the kind of talent that can complement Dave Counts as far as a strong big forward, a good rebounder, block shot, gets the ball out well on the break. And but if these 3 players produce as I feel they can and will, then I think we've got the nucleus of a playoff team. And whatever we might have lost in some of the players that we had to give up, we're going to make every effort to get their replacements. And naturally, in the place of a backup center, we've been working on that for 2 weeks, and we'll have a backup center for Dave to hopefully prolong his career, because a player like Dave playing 40 minutes a game, that'll shorten his career. So, and I've discussed this with Red, and we have some ideas on that.
You're saying you think you got value for value on that trade?
Sir?
You're saying you think you got value for value on that trade?
No question in my mind, and I don't want to get in. Red had a philosophy of what he was looking for to rebuild the Celtics, and I think the moves he made were great moves last year. And on the other side of the coin, in this country, you got a right to maybe disagree, and you got a right to defend yourself. And the 3 players that we're bringing over here are 3 proven All-Pros. They've been 12-time All-Star participants, and I feel they're going to make a great contribution to the Celtic program. I wouldn't have brought them. I certainly wouldn't have come up here to shortchange Boston, because I'd been sent home pretty quickly. And the only time will tell. When you make trades, you don't know till they get on the court and see how they fit in. But whatever we might have lost, then we'll make every effort as owners to replace. And I think you've got some great players coming in here to help the Boston program. And when I looked at Boston last year, I thought to myself, because of the age and because of the situation of not enough young players, that there's really a difficult rebuilding job over there. But I feel pretty comfortable about the future of the Celtics now. I think we've got a chance to build the Celtics back up and hopefully replace them to the type of tradition and winning ways that you've had in the past. Not like Red used to win 9 out of 11 championships, because it's too competitive today. But I think you'll be pleased, but we need a little patience and a little time.
Mr. Brown, how much responsibility, if any, do you accept for the demise of the Buffalo Braves?
I don't accept really any, other than if we maybe didn't have the right selling program or the right approach in the front office, or maybe the trades maybe could have been better or different. But that's hindsight. I'll say this: all an owner can do is do the best he can. And when last year was my first year in Buffalo, we went up there in good faith. I felt like Buffalo was entitled to a pro sports team as much as any other city. I announced when I bought the team, I'd rather have a team in my hometown. We gave up 3 first-round draft picks, 2 second-round picks, so we certainly gave up a piece of the future to try to give that community a chance to respond to see if it could support an NBA team. Paul Snyder, who was a local owner, had threatened to move the team the year before, on the heels or right after he had the 2 best years in the history of the franchise, both in attendance and winning record. And so I think it was pretty much expected that Buffalo really wasn't interested enough to support an NBA town, because it's hockey town, it's football town. But my conscience is clear. Our general manager made over 150 speeches. We put on telethons. We really gave our best efforts. And it's always traumatic to move a team, but my conscience is clear that we gave our best efforts. And I think the president of the Chamber of Commerce said, John, you did all you could. We appreciate it. We understand what you have to do.
What's the significance, concerning John, in moving the press conference from the scheduled day tomorrow to today?
Well, no great significance other than Red came up a day earlier, and I came up a day earlier, and you don't like to say, I think your radio program the other night with the questions, I'd like to answer them, because I'm proud of whatever I've done in the past, and I'd like a chance to defend myself, and this hasn't been the most friendly press to at least an initial reaction, which is fine. I just like a chance to answer any questions you've got.
Did Mayor White's telegram to the commissioner have anything to do with it?
I don't, not necessarily. Larry called me, and I was informed of that. And I think he felt like the sooner we could get up here and sit down and get to know you all, and you all get to know us, the healthier we'd be. But the one-day lapse really wasn't that significant. I think it was propitious to get together sooner.
John?
Yes.
You said, as I recall the story, you offered Auerbach the most attractive package in the league. Could you be more specific in terms of how you perceive his authority, how you perceive his role under your administration?
I think that's really between Red and myself, that we're both comfortable. And, you know, he's had 28 years of success, and he sure doesn't want an owner coming in here and making him uncomfortable. And I guess I've had in my own way my own role of success and independence, and it's a matter of two men finding out how they can work effectively together and be effective together. Because if it doesn't work out that way, then neither one of us is going to be happy, and neither one of us needs that. But that's really something that I don't think Red and I will have any problem working out. We've discussed it. We haven't defined it down, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but I don't really think that's a problem.
John, how would you describe yourself and the way you will run this organization?
Well, first of all, I don't want to run the organization, because I live in Kentucky, and I don't plan on moving up here on a permanent basis, but I think Harry and I will be up here quite a bit of time, because we want to enjoy the sport that we're part of, and we want to contribute to it and help make be of some benefit to it. I don't know enough about the organization to know really what needs to be done, if anything. The reputation of your Boston organization is one of the best in the industry.
So you intend to let the general manager, whoever that is, run the clubs?
Sure. And but now when you get down to making sizable investments, you know, the economics of pro basketball today are different than any other, maybe in American business, and any owner is going to have to be involved and have some right of approval or some right of involvement. And it's unrealistic for them. And Red's worked that way with Irv Levin and his other owners. And all I want to do as an owner is try to get whatever needs this team needs to be competitive and to be winning on the court and to become a playoff team and hopefully a championship team.
Mr. Brown,
yes.
Speaking of needs, in the future, if the team needs players, will you take the sole responsibility to make that decision, or will you override your general manager, whether it's Mr. Auerbach or whoever it is? Will you have the sole decision-making power?
I'm not interested in coaching. I'm not interested in coaching. I'm not interested in being a general manager. I'm interested in making a contribution. You don't force any player on a coach, because he'll make sure that it doesn't work out. But Red knows that I've been an active manager, and I think the record speaks for itself, because I think from Moses Malone and a lot of other players, Maurice Lucas, Caldwell Jones, there's been a lot of players in the market as an owner that I went out and was able to bring to the teams that I was associated with, and I think I can help. But I'm certainly not going to bring some player in and force it on anybody.
John, you talked to any of the Boston players, Callens, White, anybody like that?
I talked to Dave, and I met Dave and his father down in Louisville last year, and I just wanted to have a nice talk with him, and you know, naturally he was interested and concerned about the future.
Your role in the operation will be?
Well, I'm a co-owner and kind of a silent partner of John's. I mean, we discuss various things, and I'm pretty new to this game, so I'm just more or less a confidant of John's and part of the source of where the money comes from.
John, a lot of people would interpret your style of leadership as being in competition with Red's. The way you two operate are strong, aggressive, independent people. A lot of people see that as inevitable conflict. Do you really honestly see it a situation where the two of you can work together, when the opposite has been true in the past?
Well, I don't think the opposite has necessarily been true in the past, but I certainly, any owner would be thrilled to have the opportunity to team up with Red Auerbach. And I would like to, and this is a very competitive industry. When you look at the competition around the league, the Philadelphia's all across the board, I think all the strength you can bring to a franchise will benefit that franchise. So I certainly look at teaming up with Red as an asset to the Celtics, and I'm going to make every effort to complement it in that way. I'm not foolhardy enough to come in and think that I'm going to know more basketball than Red Auerbach. At the same time, an owner many times has opportunities as far as acquiring players, negotiating deals, leveraging deals with other franchises, I think, to help bring players to the team. And I'm not interested in coaching or really running the front office here. But as a businessman, you're naturally going to be interested in how the operation runs. And I look at that, hopefully we can team up effectively and bring back the old Celtic pride and tradition in many ways.
Are you changing your style in any way to do this?
I don't think so. I've dealt with a lot of strong people. And, one thing, I don't know where all this comes out about how hard I am to get along with. I had almost an impossible situation in Buffalo last year, and we really made every effort. When the season opened, they had 2,000 season tickets. They had a telethon there and didn't sell a single ticket. So I think maybe Paul Snyder the year before and a lot of the transactions, the fact that he was moving to Miami, it really broke the heart of the franchise. Plus the economics of the sport have gotten so far out of line, your smaller cities just can't compete. You compare Boston to Buffalo, there's 3 or 4 times the size. And I've been in business for 18 years and I've never had a single lawsuit. So I'm not one looking for problems or looking for quarrels, and I think I'm an ethical, honorable businessman based on my track record. And
John,
that's all I can say.
How much concern do you have about getting a new arena in Boston?
Sir?
How much concern do you have about getting a new arena in Boston?
Well, naturally, it's ideal, and of course, I know it's awful slow getting anything done up here in your townships and your zoning and ordinances and your legislature. I know it's very time-consuming in Massachusetts because I know it took us 2 years to open our first chicken store up here. And but naturally, we'll do everything we can to try to encourage that and promote it. I'm not really familiar enough with all the complications other than I know it's going to be pretty complicated. I know the problems of this arena, I know the problems of the leagues, and there are handicaps, there's no question about it, but we look long term to the Celtic tradition and to the New England as a market. Somewhere 3, 5, 8 years from now, there's got to be a new facility to play basketball and hockey in.
Ron, wait a minute, didn't you have a famous lawsuit on Colonel Sanders?
No, that wasn't me. The Colonel, when I sold the company to Hubeline, Colonel sued Hubeline because 2 or 3 years later they got in some conflict. I never had a conflict with the Colonel. He sued him for $121 million, and 4 years later I went up there and represented the Colonel and got it settled. So,
Red, you've got a decision obviously to make about whether you're going to stay here, whether you're going to accept an offer. What's going to go into that decision? What are you going to think about before you make your mind up?
Well, actually, there are a lot of things to think about, and I'm thinking about it. That takes care of that one.
Red, are you going to stay in Boston?
I just got through giving the answer. Where were you?
Mr. Brown, what happens to the rest of your front office for Buffalo?
well, we're trying to get in place now, and we're going to be responsible for them. And hopefully, our general manager will join her 11. He flew out there last night. Also, our
Well, that's not one of the bright questions of the day. I hate to tell you, but after 28 years, how can you not get sentimental? I mean, I got to be an idiot. You've got to be sentimental. You can't spend your whole major portion of your adult life in one city and not be concerned or sentimental.
Well, would you define what you consider to be the proper jurisdiction of a general manager and the proper jurisdiction of an owner?
Yeah, I think so. I've had a lot of owners, as you all know, the past dozen years, and I got along with all of them. We never had any problems, other than what they did up in New York when, that bunch owned the ball club up there. But actually, my interpretation of the whole bit of being a general manager is not only the function relative to the ball club, but the business aspect, relative to contracts for radio, TV, promotion, so forth, so on, and we got a great staff for that. However, when money is involved of a substantial nature, I don't mean a $5,000 or $10,000 promotion thing or anything like that, but when money is involved of a substantial nature relative to